Hello there and welcome back to another review. So when you think about Donnie Yen and you think Wilson Yip, most people, at least most mainstream people, if they've not seen many other Donnie Yen films or many Hong Kong movies, they would be thinking about the Ip Man series. Or there's also Shou Pa Lang, or in my case Flashpoint, one of my most favourite Donnie Yen movies that he made with Wilson Yip. But there was another film that they made after Killzone, Shou Pa Lang, and that is this film here, Dragon Tiger Gate, made back in 2006. And again, I cannot believe this film is that old now. It's based on the manhua, which is basically Hong Kong Chinese comics. I think it's called Oriental Heroes, which I know absolutely nothing about, so you'll have to forgive me on that one. Originally there was going to be a sequel to this movie, or at least it was spoke of, or shortly after it was something that was going to happen, but nothing ever really come of it. When I saw some of the posters for this movie back in the day when it was released, I was a bit, what the hell? You know, you have to remember Donnie's previous film before this was Killzone, so seeing this sort of cartoonish, almost in a way, without bashing the film, almost like somewhat tacky posters, I was like, what on earth is Donnie doing, you know, at the time, because a lot of people, if they're new to the world of Hong Kong movies, or if they've, you know, I've never seen Donnie Yen movies, a lot of people, they've only really seen the Ip Man movies. I was a fan, I've been a fan of Donnie Yen for years and years and years and years and years, ever since I was very little. But when I saw the posters for this come out, or sort of the previews for this movie, I was like, what? It was only comparing it. There's nothing. I'm not talking like bashing the movie, but comparing it to sort of what they made before with Shou Pa Lang. It was sort of, what, you know, where are they going here with this? You know, it's a bit sort of, what the hell are you doing? You have to remember, like I say, Donnie's previous film before this was Killzone. So seeing these sort of cartoonish, like I say, almost tacky posters, I was just, what, Donnie, what you doing? Like, everyone looked like a typical poster boy, like they should be in a boy band or something like that. We get Nicholas C, and we even get Yuen in this movie. Now, this is a very simple movie. This is a movie that has quite a bit of CGI too. Of course, all the fight scenes and action is handled by Donnie himself. The thing is that this film relies quite a lot on CGI. Now, when I watch a Hong Kong movie, I watch it for the action, of course, not the special effects. I understand they wanted to give it that comic book feel and that fantasy sort of, this isn't real life aesthetic, but there is quite a lot of CGI in the movie. But I guess at the time, 2006, that's just what filmmakers were doing. Well, actually saying that, that's what they're just doing now, aren't they? It's just CGI all the time. Now, there are people that love this movie, and I think for me personally, after watching the amazing SPL and then this at the time, it was hard not to compare the two back in the day, because it was from the same director, it had the same star, they were sort of, one film preceded the other, and I know they're obviously two very, very different movies, but it was impossible not to compare them, because like I said, this was almost from the same team that gave us Killzone, so you were I personally was sort of like, almost like, well, that's not another Killzone, you know, like, but over the years, I don't think you can say, like, as obviously that, I mean, like I say, they are two vastly different movies, and I always applaud stars and filmmakers when they do try new things. But I think in terms of what audiences were expecting, or, you know, just how the movie paid off, it may be not as classic to some people as one would hope. I'm not, like I say, I'm sure there are fans of this movie. I like this movie, but compared to Killzone, as I say, it's something totally vastly different. The plot is quite thin in this one. It doesn't tax the brain cells too hard, and it's one of them movies that you sort of, like I say, you just sort of have to accept it for what it is. You know, it just is Dragon Tiger Gate. So let's get into it today and see how the film fares. So the film starts very, like, sort of Marvel-esque in nature. We learn of Dragon Tiger Gate, which is sort of a symbol of justice, and was founded by, I think it's Wong Jinglong and Wong Fu Hu. We see here probably the largest Wing Chun dummy I've ever seen, as well, at the start of the movie. We meet Nicholas C as Tiger Wong bumping into this girl, and they think they know each other, but they don't really, so yeah, so him and his friends are having a meal, and the White Lions show up and confront Ma Kun. Oh, by the way, Chen Kuan-tai is in this movie, and they are jealous that he holds this plaque and therefore holds the monopoly. After beating out some thugs, Tiger gets to show his skills and is just beating the crap out of people, sort of launching himself over tables, and as openers to movies go, it really does get the ball rolling to great effect, and the movie does have great moments in it, believe you and me, it really does. There are some great choreography in the film, and like there's some great like I say, stunt work and fight scenes, you know, thanks to Donnie Yen and, you know, his choreography, but unfortunately as the film progresses, it they rely too much on the CGI, and it sort of takes you out, or takes attention away from the actual choreography itself, which, to be honest, is I watch a Donnie Yen film to see the fights, to see the great choreography. So when there is a lot of CGI, everything is over the top, it's kind of draws you out at the moment a little bit. But again, not bashing it. I know this is meant to be sort of a comic book movie, so I will give it a break there. You get incredible legwork too, and then sort of Donnie Yen shows up as Dragon Wong, just launches a table. As I say, they do have some very pretty boy hairstyles in this movie, and it's worth noting Donnie, I think he was around like 43, 44 here at the time, and I think he's meant to be portraying somebody much, much younger. So anyway, they get the plaque, and then they love how like Donnie walks in on them having yet another meal, and he's just like, give me the plaque. We have this guy Scally, played by Vincent C, who works for Kun and sets all his men on Donnie wielding machetes, and so begins another Fast and Furious fight sequence. And notice here how free-flowing the camera movement seems to be as well. And I love, there's a great bit in this fight scene here where they do like this bird's eye view shot here, where we sort of pan around the rooms. And it's sort of like bodies being launched in the air. Now, in terms of action, the film is off to a flying start, and I cannot knock it on that basis. Like I say, you get the bodies launched in the air in this bird's eye view, and we see sort of the traffic outside as well, and it's an awesome, awesome moment in the film. Then this random blonde guy, Turbo Shek is his name, joins the fight with his nunchucks, and it's mad, but mad in the most awesome way possible. His hair sort of reminds me of somebody from the 36 Deadly Styles, that classic Joseph Kyo movie, which I reviewed ages and ages ago, where it's probably one of the infamous movies, kung fu movies, where the wigs they've just got your attention from start to finish, regardless of the fight action. With Huang Zhenli, the wigs in it are absolutely awful, but his hair in this Turbos sort of reminds me of something from that movie, like, this is some hair. So anyway, at the Dragon Tiger Gate, which is like a training centre, we meet the legendary Yuen in this movie. It's always great seeing Yuen in a movie. Turbo isn't accepted into the gate, and him and Tiger have like a spar, then have like a flashback to Dragon and Tiger as young kids, and how Dragon's mum died, which is sort of how he met and was like too ashamed to go, how he met Kun, and like how he's too ashamed to go back to the gate, because Dragon's sort of working for like Ma Kun. And anyway, yeah, so there are quite a number of flashbacks in the movie, but I say it's great seeing Yuen and Chen Kuan-tai in this movie. It's great they got some of the old school guys here in this movie. So Tiger and Wong, that's Yuen character, want Donnie to come back to the gate because he's sort of left. Now, I watched this recently again. It's so weird when you see, like I said, you see them old, they got old mobile phones that we all had in the mid-2000s. Some of you might be too young to remember them type of days, but the phones that we all had in like the mid-2000s, when sort of the phone had to be as small as possible. Like everybody had a flipper, and the idea was phones were just getting smaller and smaller and smaller, and now it's the complete opposite. Like phones are absolutely huge, everybody's got tablets, but when you watch this again, it's like, oh, I remember having a phone like that. It's got, like I say, them mid-2000 era type phones. So there's also a girl involved, of course, in this movie, Xiao Ling, and Turbo challenges Wong to a fight. He beats him and basically says, you suck at nunchucks, right? He basically says, you suck at nunchucks. And after a bit of a sob story, Wah takes him in. Kun wants to return the plaque and retire, and this is when you notice that the film is really, really, really slowing down, okay? It gets off to a flying start. We got amazing choreography, and then you think, okay, I can get into this. And then it starts to slow down a little bit, okay? There are moments in the film where it does feel like it's dragging a little bit. So Dragon wants Xiao Ling to arrange a meeting with him and Tiger, cue the sad piano and some more flashbacks. And after I love how, like, when they're talking, the amount of like hair that Donnie has in his eyes at this point. I mean, I'm not even sure how he can actually see. So Rosa, one of the girls who works for Shibumi, gets told Dragon and Kun must die as they want to return the plaque, which he views as an insult. Shibumi's we'll just go with the review for the time being. But you say we'll just if you have seen this movie, you know what I mean. But say Rosa works for this Shibumi, gets told Dragon and Kun must die as they want this, all about this plaque, which they say they view as an insult. Then another flashback of how Rosa met Dragon. She wants him to give her a tattoo. The two kiss. She tells him she was meant to kill him as he basically launches her into a pool of water. Kun gets ambushed at his daughter's baseball practice in floodlights, no less, and for some reason he is the only one there. So Scally and the Double Devils, as they are known, They're there as well. Ma gets stabbed pretty much as soon as the fight begins, though he does start beating the crap out of Scally with a baseball bat, but then wouldn't you know it, he gets annihilated by some size. Love, then out of nowhere, everything just gets ramped up as Donnie charges across the field with a bow staff and tears into the guys, one even having like a 3-section staff here. And to be honest though, like, awesome, this fight should have gone on so much longer than what it did. Like, it really should have gone on much longer. We even have an x-ray shot here as Donnie gets hit in the ribs. Then he carries home Xiao Ling and just like leaves her father there, like, because she's sort of Ma's daughter, you see, right? So he drops her off to Tiger, then he's just walking wounded through this random field and just collapses. Okay, unfortunately, as I say, flashback scenes do slow the film down and make the film actually even more cheesy than it needs to be, which is unfortunate. And we're nearly an hour in at this point, and like, you know, it does, where it is sort of slowed down. And the Turbo character really hasn't had all that much to do, but I've since, like, people reviewed this movie, I've seen reviews and spoke to people, people think Turbo's like the coolest character in it, but he really hasn't had much to do in terms of sort of the plot and what's actually happening. So Tiger vows to protect Xiao Ling, obviously not worried about Donnie then. Suddenly Shibumi turns up at the gate, only Turbo and Master Wong there. Another saving grace of the movie is that they make sure Yuen like does actually get his share of the fight action, thank goodness. I mean, it's always great to see Yuen do his stuff. He gets beat, and it's a shame him and Yuen didn't actually share a lot more scenes together. Shibumi, by the way, is like this masked random villain. That's what I forgot to mention. He's like this masked random villain who we know absolutely nothing about. He beats Tiger easily. Donnie's still in the field at this point, just having like a moment. Xiao Ling returns and finds everyone beat and takes Turbo and Tiger up this mountain, Mount Bayan, I think it is, and God knows where all the kids that train at the Tiger Gate have gone at this point. Donnie now finds the school destroyed in the rain, and yes, it's overly dramatic. So Xiao Ling goes up these steps of the mountain when the voice tells her to pick up these prayer beads. Not entirely clear like who she's talking to. We have this weird sort of trippy scene where she like throws herself off this pagoda. Shibumi gives Rosa this medicine like to heal Dragon, as like he wants to fight him. It turns out she saved him over herself. Rosa dies, and cue yet more flashbacks. Just showing flashbacks showing flashbacks to them as children, like in slow motion, doesn't help us engage with these characters anymore. You know, just because it's them when they were younger and it's in slow motion, it's not necessarily making us feel like we know these characters any more than we do anyway. Plus, we have no real clue who our villain is, and like I say, it's, you know, really hasn't been given an awful amount of screen time. So this guy at the pagoda agrees to train Tiger and Turbo. Cue a very CGI heavy training montage. We have no idea really who this guy is either training them, or for that matter how long they were actually trained for. So cut a long story short, they sort of storm Shibumi's place. We have kicks and double nunchucks going up against this guy, and yeah, it does look really awesome, thanks largely to Donnie Yen's choreography. Then we get more CGI heavy moves, Turbo creating like this shield around himself, Tiger doing some heavy CGI kicks, which yes, like I mentioned, does take you out of the fight scene somewhat, which is a real shame. And boom, suddenly Donnie is there and proceeds to go and kick Shibumi's ass. Not even sure where they are meant to be at this point, as it just looks like one gigantic big set. They do dial back on the CGI a bit here, if only slightly. So Donnie wins. Tiger and him have a real aggressive hug. Turbo like given nothing to do. Then they sort of go back to the gate now. We never see Shibumi's face, and suddenly out of nowhere, all of Tiger's friends are back at the gate. And sort of seems everyone seems to have baggy cargo pants on in this movie as well. Xiao Ling gets no last word. Yuen dies. Rosa died. Chen Kuan-tai died, and we have no idea who our villain was, and that sort of wraps up Dragon Tiger Gate. But if you are fans of this movie, make sure to let me know in the comments below. As I say, not bashing the movie at all, but it's, as I say, just very, very vastly different from Sho Pa Lang, from Killzone, the movie that came before, and a very sort of odd choice when you look at, if you look at Wilson Yip's filmography. It's a film that does sort of stand out a little bit, just because it is unlike sort of quite a lot of the things he's done. As I say, I think there was meant to be a sequel, or a sequel was going to happen at one point, but say even when it came out back in the day when I was much younger, even before I'd seen the movie, I was like, I was sort of confused by it. Not to say I wasn't looking forward to it, because it's like, it's the new Donnie Yen movie, but where Killzone was like really awesome, you know, and then like doing a film like this, which is so different, almost like I say Marvel-esque in nature, you know, it was a bit bewildering to me. But I still don't mind this movie. It is something different. As I say, you have to let me know what your thoughts are on Dragon Tiger Gate. Do you think it's a good Donnie movie? Maybe you're even a fan of the comic book it's based on. Just make sure to let me know, and I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts on Dragon Tiger Gate. So thank you very much indeed for watching. I hope you enjoyed the review, and I'll see you again soon.
Don't concentrate on the finger or you will miss all that heavenly glory.